Welcome to the Books Between Friends podcast.
3 lifelong friends,
one shared obsession.
Books.
From epic fantasy to page-turning thrillers.
We dive into the stories we love
and the ones we just can't stop talking about.
So take a seat,
grab a drink,
and get cozy. Welcome back, friends. We're so excited to dive into the second part of Onyx Storm, where we will discuss chapters 7 through 12. If you didn't catch our first episode of Onyx Storm, go listen to it now, then come back and join us for this episode. Speaking of cozy, what is your cup of cozy today? I am drinking red wine, just like I always do on the weekends.
All right. I decided to join you in the red wine game today, so I'm also drinking red wine, but mine is a Cabernet.
Ooh, mine is also a Cabernet, drinking some red wine in the Red Wine Club, but I'm drinking it out of a mug because I'm classy.
All right, friends. So before we get started, spoiler warning once again. If you're listening to this episode, we're assuming that you've already read through chapter 12 of Onyx Storm. We've already done one episode starting with the prologue through chapter 6. So if you haven't gotten to chapter 12 yet, go back and read and then come back to us. Now, before we dive in to the next 6 chapters of Onyx Storm, let's catch up on where we're at. So, a few weeks have passed since the battle at Biscayeth, and tensions are running high. Negotiations between Navarre and Poromiel have wrapped up. The Aretian riders have been pardoned, but the Poramish flyers won't be allowed to stay at Biscayeth because Navarre refused to allow the wardstone to be altered so they could wield. That's a major problem for Violet. She needs the flyers to stay, not just for their safety, but to hold up her end of the bargain she made with Takaris to gain access to his library. And that library might have the information she needs to find the rest of Andarna's kind, and most importantly, maybe a cure for Xaden. Violet has a plan to convince Navarre to let the flyers stay, but it requires committing treason. And if she fails, the wards could fail too, putting everybody at risk. Now that we're caught up, let's get into our first impressions.
Man, these chapters were so good. It gave us a little more insight on the venin, but now, after reading these chapters, I have so many freaking questions about it. Like, honestly, I love that the book has just been like action-packed from the beginning. Rebecca Yarros, I feel like, did a really great job, like just keeping you fully engaged and leaving you wanting to more. So with that in mind, let's get into the deep dive of these next few chapters.
Starting off, obviously we're doing plan B since we really need the flyers to stay at Biscayeth. So Violet and her squad in the middle of the night go down to the wardstone to try to alter it so that the flyers can wield at Biscayeth and stay so that they're safe. So on their way down there, they run into Mira. Now, this wasn't surprising for me. I kind of saw it coming when Brennan told them like how the negotiations had ended and that the flyers weren't going to be able to. Mira just caught on to Violet's reaction or non-reaction right away. So I saw that coming, but then once they get into the chamber where the wardstone is, Brennan was also there to help them do this. How did you guys feel in this scene?
I honestly keep going back to the fact that I freaking love Mira. I mean, again, like, yes, she's older sister material, and sometimes our older sisters tend to like want to be our second mothers. And so Mira is just really there for the mission as well. And so I love that it's like a whole family sibling thing because I get along so well with my siblings. So I was honestly happily surprised that they both showed up to help her.
Yeah. Yeah, I love their dynamic. Like, it's funny that Brennan and Mira butt heads a lot, but like you can tell they have each other's back and like they let each other's insults against each other just roll off their shoulders. Like it's nothing. Like it's such a heartwarming sibling dynamic that I think a lot of us can relate to. And I love that they're always there for Violet no matter what. And they also don't, like most other people, underestimate Violet. Like they do know her strength and her power and her worth, and they support her. Mira's not happy about her doing this, but instead of trying to stop her, she's going to help her. And same with Brennan. So I
Yeah.
think that's so cool.
Yeah. I like the parallel between Andarna and Taryn and the way they interact with each other versus Mira and Brennan. Like I think I
Oh,
think it's cool that she has like two dragons and two humans that interact with each other in similar ways, right?
I
Where
had
Mira
not
kind of
seen that.
mirrors
That's so good.
Mira kind of mirrors Taryn, right? Like this
Yeah.
very like not strict but
Headstrong.
headstrong. Yes, that's a great way of putting it. Headstrong, and Brennan and Andarna kind of mirror each other in the way they act a little bit as well. And both of them, both pairs, butt heads with each other. And so I
Yes.
enjoy that dynamic on both ends.
Oh my God, I
I
love that
love
you brought
that.
that up. I hadn't
Yeah.
even noticed that, but you're so right.
I do love that. But I do love the fact that like Violet just continues to be, like I said, I mentioned before in other episodes where like Violet kind of annoyed me a little bit with her like inner monologue. But I feel like this book so far, she has not annoyed me at all. And I love that because she really takes her role serious in this revolution and really wants to save the Flyers and really want to make sure that everyone is safe. I mean, she has faced the venin several times now, so she knows what's out there and she knows what's at stake. And so the fact that she messed with the word stone for the Flyers, who were once their enemies, like kudos to her for doing that. Like I love that. It's so badass of
Also
her.
insane. Completely
Yes.
insane. Because they could very likely fuck it up and and really cost everyone everything, the whole war.
Thankfully it didn't.
Yeah, no. All is well. It worked out perfectly. But they didn't even know if it was going to work.
I know, I know. But you know what? What's life without risk, right? Like you can't
Says
go
the
on
reader.
living. What'd you say?
Right, yeah.
As it says the reader, like it's so
This
easy to
this is
see
why
that.
we read about this stuff and don't
Right?
like
Hey, I
You
take
enact
don't
that
actually
in our
do
real
it.
lives.
No, but I love y'all are both right. Like I agree with you 100%. I love the moments where we get to see Violet's characterization and her character development,
risk.
right? Like it's very different from book 1 to where we are now, right? Where
Yep.
she's a little unsure of herself, and now we're in this section where no, she's really starting to own it. We saw that in the first section prologue to chapter 6, where
Mhm.
she has several badass moments. One that I didn't even mention in the first one, where she just like whips out a dagger and kills a venin like by throwing a dagger.
Yeah.
I thought that was so cool. And I was like, yes, yes, have your Mission Impossible moment. I love it. And then with her moment against Aura, right? Like she's like, no, you're gonna have to deal with me. I'm the lightning wielder. Let me put you in your place real quick and then we'll move on. We'll have a good day. And now we're here in this moment where she's carrying out this huge plan and facing treason. Like,
Mhm.
okay, come through. I love
Yep.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, of course, he wasn't really mentioned in the first few chapters of Onyx Storm, but he was such a pain in my ass in Iron Flame. But here we go. Here's freaking Aetos. Daddy Aetos is
Oh
back
my
in the
God.
story, and he is pissing me the fuck off already.
Okay. Can we pause and can I please make a case for Daddy Aetos being our Umbridge in this book?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yes. Yes. Let me hear it.
Okay, this fucking guy, like, he's giving little dick energy.
Oh my gosh, I wrote the exact same thing in my journal.
Thank
I
you.
gave the
Yes.
exact same thing.
And okay, give him some power and he's instantly abusing it, you know? So let's backtrack a little bit. They pull this thing off, but it's not over there. They committed treason by doing this. And so the next day, Violet gets arrested for treason. And it's Aetos that is the one arresting her and bringing her to the scenarium to face the charge of treason. Thankfully, they had already signed her pardon by the time they found out, so they really couldn't do anything about it, which brilliant, by the way. But he would not
Yes.
let it go. The scenarium had spoken. Nothing was to be done about it. Everything was going to work out. But he still had to use his power against her. it just pissed me off. And the fact that he kind of shoves it in her face a little bit. He's a little bit condescending with the
Ugh.
fact that he's got this position now, which is so disrespectful to General Sorengale, who, again, sacrificed her life so that everybody would live at Biscayeth, including him. So
Yeah, he has
I
no
rest my
right.
case.
He has absolutely no right naming himself commanding general of this guy. Like, who are you to
Well,
take Lilith?
he was appointed by King Tauri,
Ugh, I know.
which
It's so
again leads me to my theory that Tauri is at the head of this network of venin within Navarre.
I don't think you're wrong, honestly. I think that it does go deep within more than what we know. But yeah, I was so annoyed. I'm like, who gave this guy power more than what he already had? I mean, he already tried to get Violet's, killed in Iron Flame. And now
Several
he's
times.
yes, and now
In
he's the
Fourth Wing
freaking
2, when he sent her to Athbane,
yes.
that
And
was an
now
attempt to kill all of them.
yeah, and now he has freaking power over the war college. Like, no, who did that? Like, what?
Yeah.
Come on. But I guess we had to have a common villain besides the Venom, right? Because they're the villain. But like,
They're the common enemy. Yeah.
yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. But I would, oh God, I was pissed just reading that. Honestly, though, I really did like the scenario, man, for putting him in his place. They were like, remove yourself. If you can't be silent, you have no purview here. I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
get out of here.
But he wouldn't let it go.
So
Ugh. Hate him.
I know, and came after her friends. I was like, come on.
Yeah.
That's when I started writing. Well, no, when I started writing Little Dick Energy, it was right after he said, I have no son, talking to Dane. I'm like,
Ugh.
Oh my
ew,
God, poor
that's
Dane.
gross.
Ugh.
I know. And so when he started making the argument, well, I may not be able to get you, but I will get your friends. I was like,
Ugh.
who
Of
are
course.
is there no honor in your position? Like, you're supposed to be
None.
running the Biscayeth War College now, and you're going to come after people that can't fight that order, right? Like, that's gross. And I wanted him to desperately chime in there, like, well, I have no father anymore, like after something like
Yeah.
that, because that's below the belt.
I
Yeah.
know. I was so pissed when he was like, "Fine, I can't get to you. I can't get to Xaden. I can't get to your siblings, but I can get to your friends." But before we get into what he does with her squad, I really want to touch on the fact that Violet's like the fact that she keeps trying to do the right thing, it's really getting noticed by other people. I mean, we forget that there are different continents out there and there are different leaders that have been meeting and within the scenario that are also dukes and they're queens and kings. And so she made an ally with Queen Mariah of Peromiel. And so I love the fact that Violet was trying to save her flyers, like automatically got her this ally that she wasn't even trying to get. But now
Yeah.
all of a sudden, not only does she have access to Takar's library, now she has access to Queen Mariah's library, which apparently has more tomes in it. And so I know one thing that Violet loves is knowledge. And so I'm sure like that is something that she cherishes and is really excited to get into is like getting more into what is going on, what's the history behind all of this. And I just love that she's making friends in high places.
So back to Aetos. He sends them out to Samara, where the fighting on the front is the most concentrated, the worst.
Mm-hmm.
Like, come on. Okay, so as general of this war college, I would assume that your number one priority should be the safety of the students or the cadets at the college. But he's sending them out into danger. It's so frustrating. I hate this guy.
He is in a
Yeah.
constant like power struggle with everyone. I feel like he's constantly trying to prove himself to everyone, including these cadets who are just trying to freaking stay alive. And he invokes Article 8, like, oh, you're really sitting here trying to tell me that you're following the codex? Like, get the fuck out of
Ugh.
here.
Yeah. Just the
Yeah.
worst kind of guy, you know? And
Mhm.
like, and then when they get there, the general who's overseeing Samara was just like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with you guys? Like,
Yes.
we're just trying to survive over here. I don't need cadets. Like,
Right.
he gets it, you know?
It, basically says, I'm not interested in Aetos's power struggle. Like, right?
Yes.
Like,
Yeah, literally. Yeah.
he was like, I'm not interested in his revenge that he's trying to get on you. So just try to survive.
Mhm.
Basically, you were saying that. I was like, it's like what teachers are told for classroom management. The moment you enter a power struggle with the student, you've lost.
Yep.
Right? Like
You've
the
lost
moment
a
you start
lot.
arguing,
Yeah.
you're done. And so I think he's about to learn that the hard way, and I think Violet is going to make him realize just how poorly he's chosen.
I cannot wait till he gets what's coming to him. Like, oof, it's gonna be good. Whatever. I don't know how it's gonna happen, but
It's
we'll
like,
see.
dude, you're fucking with two of the strongest wielders ever.
Yeah, come on, man. Like,
What do you think's
just
gonna happen?
stop.
It's exactly, you know what? This reminds me exactly what Ethan said when we were talking about Barish and Iron Flame when he took Violet and tortured her. He's like, what did you think was going to happen? Like, you're over here trying to torture this freaking lightning wielder to lure in the shadow wielder, two of the most powerful people. Like, what did you think was going to happen? You
Yeah,
know? And so
yeah,
the same thing with Atos. Like, what do you think is going to happen here? Like, you're fucking with the wrong people, dude.
yeah.
Come
It's not
on.
gonna end well for him, and I can't
No,
wait.
100%.
You're right. I want it to be satisfying.
Yeah,
But man,
yeah.
this this moment of them going to Samara though sets up a ton of questions in my head. Like
Oh my
now
gosh.
we're
Yeah.
holy crap, let's get into this because now we get to the part where like Marin, who's one of the Griffin riders, her family's town, I guess, gets attacked. And so, of course, Violet, being Violet, wants to do the right thing. And it's like, no, we have to absolutely go save them. And so they go fly into action and immediately get, well, of course, Violet and Taryn being the fastest, they get there first, right? And they immediately get sucked into battle the moment they get there and they face off with a dark wielder who looks just like Violet. Now all of these questions y'all keep coming up. Like
Well,
I
she's the silver hair one that was outside of
he
Jack's cell trying to break him out, right?
yes,
It's the same one.
yes. Now
And
I have
she
all these
waves
fucking
at
questions.
them when
Yes.
they show up, like she expected them to be there. It was a
Uh,
trap.
100% a trap.
Yeah.
Crazy.
But the biggest revelation that I'm just like, I honestly still cannot get over this. Like it opens up so many thoughts and so many questions like going into Onyx Storm that she can fucking wield. But not only can she can wield lightning just like Violet. So you're telling me this venin has silver hair like Violet and can wield lightning just like Violet? What the hell does that mean? Like what did y'all think about that?
Okay, you guys. So I went over this and over this. I think it's in chapter 6. I can't remember, but who was it that said like the last time that a lightning wielder and a shadow wielder fought side by side, they were able to push the venin into the barrens for centuries.
That was in one of
So,
those little like snippets at the beginning.
okay, this is getting into another theory that I'm developing. It's not fully fleshed out here. I'm wondering, is she that lightning wielder from centuries ago? And did they really win that war against the Venin centuries ago? Is
Ooh.
Ooh.
history repeating itself? And were the shadow wielder and lightning wielder from centuries ago also romantically involved and both turned Venin?
What? Well, then
I don't know.
we're gonna have to read to keep finding out there's a shadow wielder because clearly there's a lightning wielder. Like she obviously
Well,
revealed herself.
well, she mentioned when you come to our side, come to me, not Berwin, the other sage.
Hmm.
So I wonder, is Berwin the shadow wielder?
Ooh. I don't know, but man, I will say one thing. Well, first of all, her name is bad. It's kind of badass. I like her name. What is it?
Yeah,
Theophany.
Theophany. Theophany?
Theophany?
I don't know how to say
I
it.
I I said theophany.
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 Okay.
That sounds right.
I don't know.
Well, I let's go with Theophany. So like that's a badass name, first of all. But the fact that like she lured her in taunted her the entire time they were there, wielded just to show that she can wield. Like this chick, it goes back to what I said before. These venin are playing chess when I feel like everybody else is playing checkers. Like she knew this was going to happen. She knew she could do this. She knew that Violet was a good person and that she was going to be able to get her to come out from under the ward stones, like, or under the wards. So, like, I knew, like, she knew she could do that. So, the fact that she kept her alive, like, and they keep saying it over and over and over again, like they want her, they want Violet. And, we talked about it in one of the Iron Flame episodes where, she's like this like field of energy. So obviously they would want her so they could keep feeding, but they're just so sure. They're so sure that Violet and Xaden are going to both join them. I mean, and they keep calling Violet the leash to Xaden pretty much. I mean, even Jack called her that. And so they know that if they can target Violet, they're going to eventually get to Xaden.
All right, book lovers, it's time to pick our next book to review on the pod.
We're so excited to announce our March Madness book bracket.
Check out our pages on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok on March 10th to vote for your pick.
We're starting with 8 contenders, an elite 8 of contenders, you might say.
Each week, we'll have a new matchup where you can vote on your favorite.
And we will announce the champion of our book bracket on March 31st.
And now, cue the page turn, and let's get back to the episode.
Right. And then she tells her to come to her when she decides to turn, not Berwin. And then Violet asks, why would I do that? And she tells her, because I will give you what you want most.
Mm-hmm.
Control and knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, control has to do with lightning wielding, right? Mm-hmm. She is working on controlling that power. So I think this is just more evidence that her second signet has something to do with knowledge, like knowledge of venin, maybe knowledge of the cure, possibly, I hope. I don't know where that leads, but it's making me think maybe she's also intrinsic. Because I'm thinking, like, what other mental, like, knowledge, scholarly type of signets could you have?
What if it's like a new, right? Like much like in Darna, right? Who is the 7th breed, who's very mysterious. What if it's a signet that hasn't been really discovered yet? And we don't know really what its potential is.
Well, I agree with both of y'all where it comes to like, okay, she has one badass signet where she can wield lightning and is super powerful. But I also think the second one has to do with knowledge. And so, and I think Ethan's right. I think it's something we don't know yet. We haven't like encountered. I mean, I'm telling you, like, even when I think we talked about Fourth Wing, I love that Rebecca Yarros brings in so many different like ranges and variety of magic into this book. And there's just so much out there that we don't know. And I love that it's not just like, oh, I can, I have telekinesis, or like, oh, I can, transport from one place to another. Like, I love that it's not just like the regular magic things that we think of when we think of magic, right? So I think it's something that we definitely don't know. And she's probably been talking about it since Fourth Wing and we haven't picked up on it.
Well, right. Like
well, she has said that she has, right?
Yes. Yeah. I love all these different theories, but yeah, she has definitely said that. She's like, y'all, it's obvious. I'm surprised no one has figured it out yet. Like,
oh my God.
What was I going to say?
Well, okay. So if you think about it, and Darna is still an adolescent, and your power gets stronger over time. Like Violet's lightning wielding power is getting stronger because she's practicing and she's getting better at controlling it. So I think maybe it obviously, I guess it has already manifested itself, but it's going to like slowly start becoming more clear. Gosh, I don't know. I feel like
you're right. I think it manifested already. I think the minute Andarna lost her ability to stop time, a little after that, I think she probably did pick up on her signet. She just didn't know what it was because probably it was so rare. But
yeah,
I do like interesting fact that like this venin that looks just like freaking Violet is not only obviously she's interested in Xaden and Violet because they're two powerful wielders, but like she's interested in Andarna. And so I think the venin
Yeah.
are trying to track down Andarna and take her in as well because they know how rare she is. And they probably know that she's the key to stopping them. So they
Mm.
want to make sure that that threat gets defeated early on. And so that's going to be interesting coming in the next few chapters where not only does Violet have to try to hide Andarna, but there's obviously a connection between Andarna and the venin, and that's just becoming more and more evident. Like this just
Yeah.
pretty much, I think, confirmed it for us that Andarna is like the key to whatever's going on with the venin. At least to
Yeah.
me.
Okay. This takes me back to the theory that I'm still developing. So I'm thinking, are the venin who can wield riders who turned?
Mm-hmm.
Because Xaden can still wield.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
now he's a venin that wields.
Yep.
What happens to their dragons? Like the further along they get as a venin, is that bond still there? And so is that like part of the reason why they want not just Violet, but also Andarna because she's so rare? They're both so rare. Like there's something there. And also like what happens to their dragons if they turn?
That's a great question because even to this point, Sigel still won't talk to Xaden after he channeled.
But they're still
Right.
bonded.
But they're still bonded, yeah, and he can still wield shadows.
Right. He can still channel from her.
Yeah.
The only dragon that we know for sure that's been bonded besides Xaden, that's been bonded to like a living venin is Jack Barlow's.
But he
Right?
killed it.
Like, but
Right.
he killed it, right? Like,
Yeah.
so that's all we have to go off of. So yeah, it's I honestly never thought of that. So that's an interesting question.
That
Hmm.
is interesting. Man, this venin coming into play. I'm telling you, when I was sharing what I thought about these few chapters, like this brings so many questions. I need to read because she just opened the door wide open for so many questions and theories and everything we've just been talking about. So I'm curious to see moving forward how this is going to play out. Like
Yeah, she's such an interesting character to me
she
too.
really
Like I
is.
am so curious about her history,
Yep.
like what she wants from Violet and Darna. And she knows what Andarna is. She calls her an Irid. So now
Yep.
we know. And Andarna even said like, "Oh, I remember now. I'm an Irid. What was it? Feathertail?
Yeah, she's a feather tail. No, a
No, it was
scorpion
something
tail.
else.
Arid
Scorpion
scorpion
tail.
tail. Mhm.
Yeah. So there's something there for sure. But you guys, we haven't addressed something else about this scene.
Oh gosh, what? Oh, that's right. I
Garrick.
remember.
Yeah.
Garrick
Yes.
showed up out of nowhere.
Yes. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Sus.
So, oh my gosh. Taryn and Violet get caught up in this tornado
Yep.
and they get flung onto the side of a cliff or something like that.
Yep.
But in the middle of that, Garrick shows up and he's supposed to be like miles and miles away where Xaden is. There's no way he could have made it out there so quickly. What is going on?
So this goes back to what I don't think I actually mentioned it on the podcast, but I know I like thought it to myself. But the fact that like Liam was said to have wielded ice in one of the battle scenes, but he was a Farsight. So I'm just like, okay, hold on. How is it that he has two signets? Is he like Xaden, where he bonded with the dragon that was a descendant of like one of his like lineage? Right? I was thinking about that in Iron Flame because it got brought up in Fourth Wing and then it got brought up again in Iron Flame. And so now it was just pretty much solidified here where Garrick has two signets as well. So, like, you're telling me that Liam, Garrick, and Xaden have two signets and they're all the marked ones. So, does that mean all the marked ones have two signets? Or does it just mean that because of the rebellion before, the dragons themselves from their families track down these riders to keep them safe?
And then is it in the next chapter that Violet asks Xaden about it and he basically confirms all of that is
Yep.
true?
Yep.
Yeah.
And Garrick is,
And it seems like the dragons actually did that on purpose.
yeah. Yeah.
But why? For more power? For
I think because they
Or I guess
believe,
what else would their motivation be?
honestly, I think the Empyrean, they don't like really getting involved in human politics because they have their own dragon politics, I think, to consider. But when it comes to making their own decisions, they know nobody can question them. And so I think they're going to try to do the best they can too, and try to protect the good humans, the ones that mean well. And so they probably did go after them to keep them all safe. But a freaking distance wielder, honestly, a lot of people thought when they came to theories and stuff for Onyx Storm, a lot of people thought that Violet was a distance wielder, a distance wielder. So I was honestly surprised that it was Garrick who was a distance wielder, which is kind of cool, actually. That's a cool signet to have.
Honestly, I need that so I can get to work on time.
Same.
Me too, even though I work from home.
So you don't need it, Ethan.
No, I'm like consistently 15 minutes late. It's a problem.
I'm not late, but I hate driving so far into the city, honestly. So I would love to be a distance wielder.
Yeah. Just skip all of that traffic.
Well, if I had a dragon, I wouldn't have to work.
This is true. Yeah. We're thinking small here.
We are.
That's
That
pretty
kinda
cool.
came
That
out.
makes me think like what is everybody else's second signet, you know?
Yep.
Like another question to throw on the pile of questions
I
we still
know,
have.
seriously. Because like Imogen and Bodhi, like, do they have a second signet?
I mean, essentially, yeah, they must, right?
Speaking of Garrick, he had to expose himself because I'm pretty sure they were trying to keep it secret that these marked ones have two signets, right? And so he had to expose himself and go help Violet because of Xaden. And so this is getting to the point where my heart is breaking for Xaden because I'm kind of seeing his desperation and like lack of control starting to really hit in these few chapters where even Garrick, his best friend, is questioning him. I mean, I think he even says, like, I have never seen him this way. Like, he's always prided himself on control. He has to when he wields that much power, and then he lost it. Like, Xaden lost it, and he really never loses it. And so he even says he's like, he's not himself. And that just makes me, like I said, just kind of going towards that foreshadowing of Xaden losing himself into becoming more and more venin. And that just makes me so sad because I love it. I love Xaden. So when she gets back, like she immediately gets bombarded by Xaden, and his confession to her honestly kind of left me a little speechless. He was like, I would have killed anything and anyone in that moment to reach you. No exceptions. I would have channeled every ounce of power beneath my feet without hesitation if it would have landed me at your side. And then Violet, of course, being Violet, she's like, you would never kill civilians. And he just says, if I'd been there beyond the wards, I would have drained the very earth to its core to keep you safe. And so that makes me question whether his conscience and his need to be a good person that he was before is starting to slip.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm feeling the same thing. I'm like, I've started to wonder, does him turning venin kind of amplify these irrational feelings that he has? Like when he finds out Violet is in danger and he can't do anything about it, he's honestly having dangerous thoughts. And then it makes me wonder, but is that him being venin, or would he have felt that way before? Because his number one goal seems to always be Violet's safety, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that wasn't the case before he turned venin, but like, is it just amplified now because of this? I don't know.
But I mean, he's never admitted to wanting to kill anyone and everyone for her. Has he? Like even innocent?
Mm, I guess not directly, but he has
No.
basically said like, I'm not good,
He did say that.
you know?
Yep.
But maybe, I don't know, maybe it's like cat's power, like when you turn venin, like all of the bad parts of yourself just become amplified. Who knows?
Isn't there a part where Xaden is beyond the wards and he gets sent back to the front and he loses control again and
Yeah,
has to tell Violet that he pretty much has to like rest because he was on the close of burnout, but really it's because he was trying to get his eye colors to go back to normal before he can be in front of other people.
Yeah, he wrote Violet a letter where he didn't say that specifically, but she kind of read between the lines.
Right.
He told her
Mhm.
he nearly burned out and needed to stay behind to recover, but
Mm.
she understood that that meant no, he slipped up and channeled again and needed to hide himself away because his eyes probably got red a little bit again and he needed that to go away before he could come back out. So yeah, he's in danger, he's losing control,
Mhm.
and time is running out for Xaden maybe. I don't
And we're
know.
only a few chapters in, so like that makes me wonder, like getting more into the book, more into these next few chapters, like how much more control is he going to lose? Because clearly, again, like I said in the last episode, he is already losing control. And I know that's going to be kind of like a theme across the book of him slowly becoming more and more venin. And so I am just really concerned with how much more venin he's going to become. Because I think you get to a point
Yeah.
where you don't care. And I think that even Violet and Imogen try to go, they go seeking for answers, and they even go talk to freaking Jack. And I think he confirms that, where he says like you get to a point where like your consciousness doesn't even come into play anymore.
So Violet and Imogen go together to ask Jack some questions and they're seeking a cure. And she brings him a source of power because they've been depriving him and torturing him to try to get answers. I don't really believe that they are. But anyway, so they make this bargain. She gives him this power in exchange for him answering four questions. And her four questions are, first question, can venin sense other venin? She already knows the answer to this, but she's just throwing that in there to be sure that he's actually being honest.
Right.
And he tells her that only initiates can, but mavens and sages can actually hide themselves.
Mm.
And then he mentions it makes you wonder who's been hiding out around Basgiath, trading power for knowledge.
Yep.
And then her second question is, do you need to be taught to channel? And he answers, if you can wield, then you don't need to be taught.
Mm-hmm.
So then that means, yes, you need to be taught unless you're a writer, really,
Mm-hmm.
because those are the only people who can wield, right?
Yep.
And then third question is, does he know their plan, like the venin as a whole? And
Mm-hmm.
he doesn't rank high enough to know anything. And he tells her that information is on a need to know basis. And then the last question is there a cure? And his answer to this was not surprising, but obviously heartbreaking. He immediately says, they don't want to be cured. That's a stupid question. And so that makes her worry, obviously, does Xaden even want to be cured? Is he eventually not going to want to be cured at all? So,
Yeah, I mean, that's where I keep like hanging on to the fact that he even said it, and I kind of thought of it before too. Like, it's not a disease. Like, being bitten is not a disease. It's not something you were injected with or like bitten, like zombies or like vampires, right? It's something that you chose to do. You chose to bring in this power from the source instead of channeling through dragons like you're supposed to. So, it's I just don't see how there would be a cure for that. Like, does that mean that you just like suck out the power that you've already channeled? I mean, I don't know. But even Jack says that he was like, you see it as a loss of our soul, but we aren't burdened by conscious or like weakened by emotional attachment. We advance based on our own capabilities, our own talents, and not at the whim of some creature, which is, we know, was dragons. He's like, there's no cure because magic does not negotiate, and we do not wish to be cured. And I've kind of been seeing it a little bit more in Xaden, where it's like his consciousness is kind of not there, where he just keeps channeling. I mean, I think a little bit of his like, he'll snap into it because he's thinking of Violet and what it could mean to her if he does fully turn. But I think that he likes the power, my
he's at
opinion,
least
of
drawn
course.
to it,
Yeah.
you know.
Yes. Yeah.
I can see Xaden leaning into it, like like having that struggle, that internal struggle. I feel like he's been repressing all of these, like, oh, I have to be Duke now. Oh, I have to look out for the marked ones. I have to, protect Violet. I have to do all these things. But now I have access to this over here where I don't have to take part in all those responsibilities. I can just be me over here. And I
Uh-huh.
can see that probably being a really big temptation for him that he'll have to struggle with in the future.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, it's really interesting. It is very heartbreaking, that part. Like, is there a cure? Well, we don't want to be cured. That's
Right.
not a thing for us, sweetie.
That's another thing that makes me think it's going to happen inevitably where he's going to become higher ranked venin because if he doesn't channel, he won't be able to live. And I don't know if maybe that means because Jack killed his dragon and he can no longer channel from his dragon, or if that is the same for all venin, that once you become venin, now you have to in order to stay alive, you have to channel from the source itself and not through your dragon anymore to stay alive. And so that was one thing that did hit me kind of hard when I was reading that part when she described him as like pretty much on the brink of death. I was like, well, shit, that means that Xaden's going to have to keep channeling if he wants to stay alive.
Well, you know what? That makes me think. I think it's in the first book where, and it gets repeated, a dragon without its rider is a tragedy, and a rider without its dragon is dead.
Mm-hmm.
But Jack killed his dragon. So, in theory, he should be dead,
Right.
but he's not. So, what happened there? Like, does the power from the dragon transfer to the rider?
So maybe then what I'm saying, then maybe there is hope for Xaden still because he still has Sigil. So maybe
Right.
he can still be
She
saved
hasn't
as long as
fully like rejected him because, they still fly out together. They're still fighting Venom together, but
true.
it's awkward. He has said it's awkward when they fly, and
Yeah.
like
Hmm.
she's not like she's obviously pissed at him.
So I think
So maybe.
she may be that determining factor of like why he's still alive and doesn't have to fully rely on channeling.
Hmm.
Or
So I have hope then.
maybe, maybe she's not pissed at him. Maybe she's protecting herself
True.
Ooh,
so that he doesn't try to manipulate her like Jack did his dragon.
Oh,
yeah.
very
Oh,
interesting thought.
that's good. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
that's good. I like that.
One thing we didn't mention about this scene is that in the middle of Violet asking her questions, he said, "You should ask why he turned, who taught him, when he turned."
Oh,
And I agree. Like, why isn't she asking him these questions? Like,
she doesn't want the answer.
Yeah.
okay, yeah, but like she needs the knowledge, y'all. Like,
True.
I honestly think they're overlooking something huge here. Like,
Yeah.
okay, so he said, "You should be asking who taught me." And if someone taught him to channel, that means he turned before he was able to wield from a dragon, before he bonded, right? Because he said you don't need to be taught if you can wield.
Mm-hmm.
So that means he turned before threshing in their first year. And like someone would have had to teach him that.
Mm-hmm.
So that someone would have had to be at Biscayeth.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's the case, who's recruiting cadets and how many other cadets have been recruited?
All right, everyone, that's the end of our deep dive for this episode. Love to leave you on a cliffhanger there. But now we're going to go ahead and go into our predictions and final thoughts for this section. And I'm going to kick us off here. I think, much to like I did last episode, where I made a prediction for like the whole book and not just what's to come in the next section, I'm thinking that Dane is going to become incredibly important because, of course, mind reader, right? I think he's going to be used if there really are people that have infiltrated Biscayeth and the Dragon Riders. I think he's going to be used to suss those people out.
Mm. That's a really good thought.
Interesting.
But he has to touch them in order for that to happen. So I'm wondering if
High
his power
stakes.
grows.
Will that be the case anymore?
Yeah.
Right? Like if his power grows.
Mm,
So
interesting.
my thoughts and predictions for these upcoming chapters really go back to the fact that the venin can wield. So it's not really a prediction, it's more of just a final thought. Like it just kind of leaves me thinking like, can all venin wield? Why does this dark wielder especially look like Violet? Like that, honestly, I'm very fixated on that point, and I'm very interested to see what more comes out of that fact. I mean, the lightning wielding is supposed to be super rare, so why is it that this venin can do that too? So that just honestly, that's more of a final thought for me. Like I need to see more on what happens with that. But I will say that this has been brought up before. This next point that I want to make has been brought up before, where they say that Violet still has yet to fall into her full abilities. And the more chapters I read, the more I see that her power is increasing. She's getting better at being able to strike true, and she can really hit those targets better than what she did before. Because before she would just bring in the lightning all the way down and hope she would hit something, but now she's getting so much better. So I'm wondering what more can she do with her lightning? She can strike the wyvern, she can strike the venin and kill them. Now that she can do a more like precise targeted kind of strikes, like what does that mean? What will that mean going into these next few chapters where she can actually hone in on where she wants to strike? So those are my thoughts. Those are the things that I'm going to be thinking about when I go into these next few chapters. Steph, what do you think?
Well, I feel like I've spilled the beans on all my theories throughout this episode. I'm gonna die on this hill. This network of venin goes deep.
Yep.
And I I think that Rebecca Yarros is like intentionally not even touching on that much, but I'm picking up on it. It's happening.
Yep.
And then my other theory that again I'm still developing, like there's some sort of connection here with like centuries ago was the last time that a shadow wielder and a lightning wielder walked the earth together and fought side by side. And I think they turned venin back in the day. And I think maybe that's why the venin now are so sure that Xaden he already has, but that Violet will follow him too. So I
Mhm.
think maybe this is just like a situation where history repeats itself and they think that they're just going to gain more power to their side of the war through through Violet and Xaden. So that's my prediction.
All right, everyone. Again, thank you so much for listening. You've heard some of our predictions and theories and our final thoughts for this section. We want to hear yours as well. What do you agree with? What stuck out to you in these chapters? What did you hate in these chapters? Let us know. We want to have that conversation with you all. Our next episode, we are going to focus on the next section, chapters 13 through 18. So please tune in for that and make sure you've read those chapters so you can join in on the convo.
Betrayals run deep, secrets unravel, and the battle for control takes a dangerous turn. As Violet fights to uncover the truth behind the Dark Builders and their terrifying connection to Xaden, she's forced to question everything she thought she knew about power, loyalty, and fate. With tensions rising at Biscayth and enemies closing in from every side, a shocking revelation threatens to change the course of the war in Violet's future forever. Will she find the answer she seeks, or will the darkness claim her before she can stop what's coming? A storm is brewing and no one is safe. Tune in for our next episode of Onyx Storm as we break down chapters 13 through 18.
That's a wrap for Books Between Friends today. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you in the next chapter.